So I am reviewing The Surprising Power of a Good Dumpling, which took me a little bit longer to get through just in the season we're in at school.
It's a busy time.
Yeah, it's a busy time. So that is not a reflection of the book at all. It is by Chim, and this book is the story of Anna. She's a teenager. They live in Australia. They are a Cantonese family who has moved to Australia, and her father runs a restaurant, but it is a ways from their home, and so that plays into Anna's responsibility in the family, along with her mother, who we can tell struggles with a mental illness. From the get-go of the book, it really focuses on her mother to start the story off, where she's, kind of confined to her own room and darkness, and it talks about triggers from the perspective of her mom. And so, like, just being aware of triggers and just kind of what's happening in her own mind. And then it transitions to Anna and her perspective. And Anna is really the person that holds their household, their family together. So she is taking care of her younger sister, her younger brother, while her mother is kind of confined and reclusive and just in this state of unhealth. I don't know if that's a word, but
we get it.
So Anna takes care of her family, is kind of tiptoeing around her mom and wondering, if I bring her a meal, or am I going to get snapped at? Is something going to get thrown at me? Is something going to get thrown against the wall? We see this fragility in that relationship and in the home, where they don't know what dance it's going to be each day. And meanwhile, her father is the only one earning an income for their family, and is most nights staying over at the restaurant to reopen the next day. And because the commute is a burden in itself, financially and physically. And so what we see is Anna running things, and in the midst of caring for her siblings, trying to meet the physical needs of her mom while her mom isn't well. She's also in school and dealing with just the cultural clashes of her heritage and where she is, like, in school in Australia, and how those two things kind of conflict. Then there's also just the teenage side of her, where she sees that other people aren't having to carry the same load. And so we see that internal struggle of, just like frustration. Why do I have to deal with this and things like that? So that's kind of how the story sets up with everything that she's balancing, really.
Yeah.
And then early in the story, she decides to begin working at her dad's restaurant to kind of give her a relief from the household, also some separation, some honestly something for herself, but also to help support the family financially. Not to mention, she's caring for her siblings. In the process of that, she knows or finds this love of feeding them, cooking. That is a safe place for her. So that kind of ties into her working at the restaurant. While she's there, a 20-year-old boy comes in the scene and takes a role as a delivery boy for the family, or for the restaurant. And they kind of develop a romantic relationship. But through that, as they get to know each other, Rory, this boy that's come into the book, kind of helps Anna with walking through that relationship in season with her mother, because he himself struggles with depression. And we find just this, again, like a safe space, someone who can help her heal through this and work through this. And the thing that I thought was really refreshing, not even refreshing, but just like, it's just good, was he makes a point to teach her that, like, we might heal for a little bit and then it might get hard again. And so it's a process of continually, like, healing and just that it's going to be hard, but we can find our safe spaces, do what we need to do to be well when we can, as best we can. And so their relationship is just super impactful to her home life. And while she's kind of exploring her job at the restaurant and the new relationship. Her mom, begins pretty much secluded to her room and confined, and then goes into a state of being out and about, but that kind of makes things worse because she's sort of irrational and lashing out, and so that adds attention and they have to navigate through that. But the book was just really well done.
So you liked it?
I liked it a lot.
Okay.
It was hard to read some of those things.
Sure.
Naturally, mental illness impacts the circle of people that are in your life. And I think we see that a lot with Anna. You see that a lot with her siblings and how each of them respond to that differently, but they each respond to it.
I think there's a trend, might be a strong word, but I've noticed that the current group of high schoolers want to read more novels about mental illness than even when we started as librarians just 4 years ago.
Absolutely. And we've talked about that too.
Yeah.
To use the word trends, things that were popular when we started are not so much anymore.
Right.
So
and only 4 short years.
In only 4 years. And I think what I appreciate about this book is it deals with really hard things. And what I feel like, and this is just my opinion, was a very relatable, safe, context. There's a little bit of the romance to lighten things up, and there's a little bit of her finding herself in cooking and helping the family, but they still deal with hard things. It was just a really good balance, I felt like, which I appreciate. I think that's appropriate for young adults. And
it's just real.
It's real.
It's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And people deal with it and have to live with it and learn and struggle and all that. And it's just real. Yeah.
I think the thing about this book, and maybe I've already said it in other words, but it is real and it is heavy, but I feel like it didn't leave you with weight. It left you with knowledge and understanding, and you felt the grief of what they're going through, but you just almost left it feeling fuller with that knowledge rather than just weighed down by it and sitting in it, in the hard things, which I think is kind of what her relationship with Rory is meant to do, is to help you weave in and out of those hard things. So that's the surprising power of a good dumpling. I know